Hello. Let's pray. In Jesus' name, Father, we say thank you for today. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for the gift of life. Thank you for an opportunity to be gathered before you today to learn. We ask, O Lord, that as we start the session today, that Lord, you start with us. We ask that you grant us wisdom, you grant us knowledge, you grant us understanding, and that at the end of this session, Lord, you help us to put to practice all that we've learned. And for as many of us who are out there looking for jobs, that God, you open doors of opportunities to us. And for as many who currently have jobs, that God, you grant us all the spirit of excellence. You help us to excel in all that we do. You grant us favor at our walk of faith, and that we'll continue to grow career-wise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our Career Development Day. And I will be hosting the session today, so give it up for me. Yeah, we created this session today as part of our monthly meetup for the Young Adults Fellowship Ministry for King's Envoy Family Church. And today's session is created to empower, equip, and encourage us as we grow in our professional lives. So whether you're just starting out or you're navigating like career changes or you're looking to take up new skills that would be helpful as you grow in your career, today's conversation will be very beneficial to you. And we are so blessed today to have two insightful guests that would be speaking to us today. So get ready, take notes, ask questions, and be inspired. So for our first session today, we're going to have Rhoda Eregbogbo, popularly known as Sheyi, who is going to be talking to us about transforming your career. A round of applause as she comes up.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this career development chat session. My name is Rhoda. You can call me Shay as well. And I'm going to be briefly talking about my career so far and some tips and guidelines that I have gone through in my career, in the tech space. So that being said, can we move to the next slide, please? So a brief overview about myself. I'm a principal consultant and a team lead with a company called Plative, and they work out of New York. So I do Salesforce implementations for them. I build systems and tools that help people from every industry, be it health, multimedia, banking, name it. I'm one of those people that supports most of those developments. As well, I have 8+ years in implementing IT solutions as well as Salesforce for different organizations. I've completed about 55+ projects over the past 6 years. And certification-wise, I'm about 13 times Salesforce certified. I am a professional Scrum Master and also a certified Java developer as well. And when it comes to my background, I have a Master's of Computer Science from Covenant University in Nigeria, and I have a Master's of Applied Computer Science from Dalhousie here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So that being said, we'll talk a little bit about my technology space right now. If we go over to the next slide, which is about Salesforce. So high level, when we talk about Salesforce, what are we talking about? It's a CRM solution, which is for storing a lot of your customer relationship management pieces. It encompasses the data that you use for your everyday businesses, be it inventory, be it information about patients, information about students. That is what Salesforce is. It's a platform that can be built to scale pretty large. I'll be able to share this deck as well with people after the session is done, but you can open up your own Salesforce environment if you are looking to test or just explore a couple of things. That being said, we'll go into the next session of what I do. So I'll give you a simple explanation. So think about a hospital. We have a lot of patients, we have nurses, we have like different people that you're working with in that hospital. And they have all this data. And if you look through it, it's possible that that whole process can be really messy. You know, the doctors don't know what patients to go to, the patients don't know what medications they're on, the patients don't know when the appointments are coming in. Now, with all of this in view, this is where I come in. I've used like platforms like Salesforce to help hospitals keep track of who their patients are, what drugs they have, who their doctors are, what doctors are on staff, what doctors are on rotation. Salesforce has been the power backed behind a lot of applications from your retail stores, like your inventory, how much bread is in the store. Salesforce tracks a lot of those pieces, and so I built solutions that help so many of those teams achieve what they want to do. The other thing that I have started building lately is AI-powered chatbots, and they are bots that help you to complete basic business processes without having to like reach out to anybody or talk to anybody. You can pretty much just go to the bot, talk to the bot, and you are good to go. So the part that I play in this is I help so many organizations bridge the gap between their business processes and the systems that need to get to work. So I go in there, when I get a new client, and I ask them, what exactly is your problem? What are you trying to solve for, and how can I help you? And with that information that they provide to me, I'm able to say, hey, here's what you can do with Salesforce, and here's how we can help you achieve those goals. So that's what I do on a daily basis, and how I make some impact on the world today. So high level, I'll skip through a couple of slides and go straight to the different roles. So if we go to Salesforce roles, in my line of business, when I first started my career, after my second degree, I was a business technology analyst. It's like a BA, but it's a technical BA because you get to write code and build like really cool apps. And so with every technical career, I've had the chance to either go functional, which means you help document business processes, but you actually don't write code, or then you have the chance to go technical. I decided to go technical, so I took that path. And then as you go through the functional places, you can become a consultant, you can become a project manager, a senior project manager, a scrum master. Those are all functional roles, and they require you to not be able to do any form of development, but at least have a good understanding of the system. I went around the technology, the technical role, so I went from being a Salesforce admin to being a business technology analyst, to being a consultant, to being a senior consultant, and now a principal consultant. So I went down the technical path there, and those are like opportunities if you're looking to do. You can be a developer, you can be a data specialist, you can be a Salesforce architect. That's like my next role that I'm urging to get. And you can also manage a couple of teams and a group of developers through the life cycle of a project. So if you're ever thinking about, what are the different roles that are involved in something as interesting as Salesforce, this is an example of what you can do at Salesforce. So that being said, I'm going to move over to career tips, which is on slide 11. One of the things I always tell people, and I got to experience that, is the power of starting small. Everybody believes that you have to do something extravagant. You have to get that $100 million job right out of university. And that notion has affected a lot of people today. A lot of people haven't been able to get jobs because they believe that it has to be something that makes sense, which is always not the case. Sometimes you just have to be able to dip your feet into an industry, be it a job that is crappy or doesn't pay you a lot of money. It's the experience that counts. If you have ever worked in Canada before, one thing you will notice is the minute you have a job, the next time you try to interview for a job, it doesn't feel as nerve-wracking as it used to be before. You feel a little bit calmer. Like nothing is like scary for you. Nothing is stressful. It might be scary a little bit, but it's not like when you were just entering the industry for the first time. And that's what any form of experience can do to you. It changes the game. So I will always advise people to start small, get volunteer opportunities. One of the things that I find that the community doesn't do enough of is working for free. Nobody wants to work and not get paid. But if you don't have any experience, today work for free. Ask people, how can I help you for free? I want to build my knowledge. Don't do it for too long, but do it to a point where you can get trade secrets about different organizations, right? And be able to explore that. So that's my very first point I will bring up. Search for internships. You don't have to be a grad student to find an internship. Search for internship, search for volunteer positions, and come correct. Many times, doors have opened for me because with the little that I had, even though it wasn't bringing a lot of money, I was still able to show up on time, show up with my best foot forward, and that opened a lot of doors for me when it came to my career. So that would be the first one. The next one is to skill up for the future. Whether we like to hear it or not, AI is here to stay, and so are other technologies in the space. The best thing you can do for yourself today is to invest in your future. Many people today would rather spend $50 to eat at a fine dining restaurant than to buy a course on Udemy for $50. It's a very sad reality, but it's actually the truth. Like, every time I see the people that are advancing in their careers, I can tell you that they're advancing because of the time that they have put towards skilling up. Nothing you are doing right now is the place you need to be. The minute you are in a position where you feel comfortable and you're not learning again, you're already sinking into like quicksand. It's time to always like be ahead of the game. You know, put some learning time on your calendar. If you learn something new 2 hours every week, you are better than not learning anything at all. So I want to emphasize to skill up for the future. The next tip that I'll give is your mindset. Mindset matters a lot. There's something called imposter syndrome. If you've never experienced it before, you're one of the lucky ones. But every day I go into my job and there's some form of imposter syndrome. Like sometimes they assign tasks to me and I'm like, are you sure about that? Like, are you sure it's me? The first time I got to lead a group of people, I was like, God, I get to lead these people. And so my mindset had to shift from, I can't do this to, I can take it on. Like, I can try. And I was very honest. I never told somebody in my workplace that I could do something that I'd never done before. I always told them, I haven't done this before, but I can try. I find that that context and honesty, it helps keep people to be able to help you as well. When I get people staffed on projects in my team, I tell them, first question, tell me what you know. And I tell people, don't lie to me. Like, be very straightforward with me. Because I wouldn't want to give you work that I know is going to frustrate you or you'll not be able to deliver. So honesty matters a lot. But your willingness to want to move and push yourself forward also matters a lot more. So those are a couple of things that I would call out. Your mindset matters. We need to be able to fight imposter syndrome every day. Let yourself know that you can do better, you are made for more, and you can do more. The fourth one I will talk about is to start building your network early. A lot of people have LinkedIn, but all they do is they post, today I got this certification, but that's not what it's for. Many times, LinkedIn is the one place that you can meet people without even having personal access to them. If you have ChatGPT to do all of those things, ask them to help you craft very eye-catching introductions that people would read and want to talk to you. And when they actually give you the audience, show up early, show up with questions, and make an impact. I've connected with a lot of people on LinkedIn, people that I would not have had the power to speak to. I have connected with a lot of people in offices and in real life, like that I've not had the opportunity to if I stayed in my home. And so networking early enough does a lot for you. So that's one of the tips I wanted to call out. And then the last tip that I have is look out for mentorship. One of the things that I would never neglect is the power of mentorship. When I started my career early in Canada, I was working with Deloitte, and I had like two people. I have a functional mentor that teaches me more about like character building, how to be an effective manager, what I need to do to advocate for myself. I also have a technical mentor who tells me, this is what so to ask me questions about what my career framework is, and tell me the things that I need to do, the technologies I need to learn to be able to hit the next milestone. And that has helped me a lot because in my workplace, I can say categorically that those tips that my mentors have provided for me have opened doors for me that I could never imagine. Like sometimes, like my mentor once told me, if they are looking for somebody to research on something, raise your hand up. You might not do a good job, but if you do a good job, it will be noted that this person is willing to learn and willing to scale up for this particular company. So I would say that get a mentor. It's very important as you go through your career. One of the take-home asks that I will ask anybody today is, when you get home, figure out one thing that you're curious about. Take a task to just sit down and say, hey, here's what I'm curious about. This is what I want to learn. This is what I want to dive into for my next career path. And then start to find ways to achieve it. One learning at a time, one YouTube video at a time. If at the moment the course of training is a little bit difficult for you, I would say spend some time on YouTube. There's so much of free knowledge on YouTube that you can access. So I would advise that a lot of people do that. And then, in my parting words, you don't need a title to lead. It's just your willingness to show up and never give up that means a lot to a lot of people. Good leaders see somebody who is willing to learn and willing to sacrifice for the team, and they make it a point of effort to also be able to support them. Another thing that I would say as well is, as you go into interviews and you go into jobs, people never forget, people don't always remember the smartest person in the room, but they remember the most memorable person. Learn how to be a memorable person. Learn how to ask questions that are important to people. People always remember people that actually ask questions about themselves. Like, I've gone into interviews and they ask me, what is something you want to ask us? If you ever walk out of the room and you say there's nothing, you're probably not on the right path. Ask them questions like, how did you get to 20 years in this organization? Like 20 years is a large thing. Let people talk about themselves. Let them tell you about their stories. They will always remember somebody that was willing to share or get any knowledge from them. And I feel like it will help a lot as you navigate the career. The market space is really tough. I'm not going to lie. It's the toughest that I've seen since I started my career in Canada. But in all of this, perseverance, being optimistic, and also never giving up is a way that you will break into any industry or make a difference. On the last slide that I have here, I put a link to my LinkedIn. If at any point in time you do want to talk to somebody or have a coffee chat, feel free to scan the barcode and message me. I have an interesting plate of work, but I'm always happy and available to chat with people about your career. The careers matter to me, they matter to other people as well, and this is where networking starts. So with that, I'll say thank you very much for your time, and yeah, it's time to kick off your career.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation that also had very practical tips. Something that stood out to me that was on the slide about starting small is that you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. I think if there's anything that we should go home with, we should just have that at the back of our mind that when it comes to like navigating your career, you don't have to wait till it's perfect or you are perfect or you have the perfect job or the perfect title. You just need to start and work your way up. So once again, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. To move us along tonight, we're going to have our second speaker up. And we're going to have Brother Mola come up to come and speak with us about his career journey. Give it up for him.
Thank you very much, Tonike. Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Okay, so Sister Ro, like I like to call her, thank you so much for that. Very coherent, nicely put together deck. But like Tomike said, I didn't come with a deck. I came to tell my very, very humble, inconsistent story filled with so much ups and downs that I'm hoping will connect to someone's reality, and from there you can find strength, right? So let's put it this way. First of three, so you can imagine the African son mentality that needs to get everything right because, well, there's no model. Both parents were in public service, and so if you worked for the government back where we came from, you had security, and then if you had the type of integrity that my parents had, you probably wouldn't get involved in stuff that would make you rich, right? But at the best, you would live a very decent life. So I had two tasks. I wanted to be successful, but I wanted to be successful the right way. And that meant I needed to do certain things differently. Fast forward to graduating from school, it's time to look for a job. And then reality version 1 struck. And so I spent 4 years without a job. I was jobless for 4 years. So if you're that guy that's looking for a job, that lady that's been getting tons and tons of no's, yeah, I was in your WhatsApp group. I can guarantee you, I know how it feels. Now, what that meant for me was, what did I spend that 4 years doing? I spent that 4 years doing exactly what Cicero had on her deck. I spent it volunteering, I spent it supporting folks, I spent it building capacity. And you'll be so surprised at how much you would have amassed in skill in 4 years. But because you weren't getting paid for it, it wouldn't really strike you as though you were doing so much, right? And so when Cicero talked about volunteering, oh Christ, please, if there's anything that you should take away from that, take it, I guarantee you. You have no idea the type of payback that comes from it, right? Volunteer, support something today. Get active in tasks that keeps your mind busy. You will be surprised how it turns out going forward. Now, fast forward to my first job, right? So in that season, what was my typical daily routine? I had interned with one of the top oil firms back in Africa, and so I volunteered to help them do loads and loads of the analysis work. So I picked up tons and tons of Excel skills in that journey. So much so that by the time I got into the corporate system, I was wondering why people get paid so much and they didn't know so much, you know what I mean, right? Yeah, I was at that point. I didn't realize I learned that much, but you had picked up tons and tons of things just because I was curious. Now, I'll tell you an interesting part of that journey. Somewhere towards the end of that first 4 years, I had a nasty accident. I broke my limbs, had 9 major fractures on my left leg. And what happened next was that this guy who was jobless now became immobile. What a great combination. But guess what? On that sick bed, I would shoot maybe, on an average, maybe 20 applications a day. 30 sometimes, 40 sometimes. depending on how many I find, right? I had applied to jobs, it became a second habit. It was just natural. So right now, even when I'm not seeking, I just randomly check. I don't know if you are that type of person. The lesson there is that even though it's not looking like it, trust that journey, right? And so I got a call, and this dude says, am I speaking to Damola? Yes. So I have this role in a commercial bank, pretty big bank, very nice pay. And then the next thing I told him was that, I'm just recovering from an accident. I don't know if that works for you. And statement in his response was my drive to you. He said, we need your brain, not your leg. Okay. Since someone thinks my brain is more priority than whether or not I could walk, I guarantee you I went for that interview limping so badly I needed like people to support me to go through the stairwells because there was no elevator. And boom, 3 weeks later, I got my first proper corporate job. Pretty nice pay, I'll confess, right? You know, there's that type of reward that when you start earning, and then you folks, you guys left uni together, and you're like, okay, looks like I might be catching up in 3 months what I thought I lost in 4 years, right? It was that type of thing. And so, career started. Now I joined this great commercial bank as a senior risk analyst. Before then, I didn't know much about risk management. It was basically, yeah, people take risk. And because I'm an adventurous person, I take risk too. Whether or not it turns out nice. But then I joined a part of the system that was very interesting because this was now risk management that's not related to credit. So if you're familiar with the financial sector, when you hear risk management, it's basically evaluating the tendency that we're about to take a credit decision on you that's valid. So if I want to borrow you money, I want to check if you're a good person. Do you have a job? Which means do you have the capacity to earn enough to pay back? Do you have character? Can I see your credit history? Have you taken loans in the past and you returned it? So those are like the conventional risk management type of thing. But here I'm doing something very unique. It's called enterprise risk management. And then, well, what would that look like from a career standpoint? I was curious. Again, leaning on Sister Rose's example. In your career journey, they would bring in tasks that no one else wants to do. That's where you should go. It would sound chaotic. It would sound out of the norm, but I guarantee you that's the fastest way to stand out. Every time you see stuff nobody else wants to do, just because it's complicated, maybe vague, sometimes unclear, yes, that should be your checkbox for leaning on stuff like that. You know why? Because right there is something that needs to be done, and no one else wants to do it. What's the worst that will happen? You fail at it. If you fail, you learn. If you win, you become popular. Both ways, give it a shot. And so we started ERM, and at that time, this was when ERM was largely new back in Africa. There were just fresh regulations coming out, so I was part of the ground-up process. What that means is that I was part of the guesswork that institutions were using to try to see how this thing should work. And that really helped me earn tons and tons of skill. So within a very short while, as you would guess, I went into a sector and the space within that sector that's relatively new, which means there were not a lot of professionals that have gained height in that regard. So moving around became very easy. And if you're familiar with the financial sector, I just and boom, a couple years down the line, yeah, right up there in the career ladder. So I did a few with a couple other banks, then moved to public sector. Now, coming to Canada, that's an interesting part. By the time it was time to move, I had a couple of friends reach out to me and said, you know, ERM is not that thing in Canada yet. I don't know, are you considering compliance and stuff? And, you know, tons and tons of ideas. And in my world, ERM is that aspect that captures compliance. So back in Nigeria, it's ERM. But the equivalent popular version here in Canada is GRC, that's governance, risk, and compliance. So it's within the same umbrella. It's just that the scope of work and the pathways to it is what differs. I got all the different, quote-unquote, concerns, genuine concerns. And this is the next point I want to raise. In your career journey, people would suggest to you and advise you based on the realities they've dealt with. So chances are great they'll give you genuine opinions, advice that's only a reflection of their fear. People have went through defeats that will collapse their courage. And so out of concern, they'll give you genuine suggestions. But if you take on those suggestions, chances are great you may be shortchanging yourself and the potentials you carry. Right? One of the things you must never be scared to deal with is rejection. It's tough to acknowledge, but it's important. So let's do the maths. I don't have a job. If I apply to this job and I don't get it, well, it didn't change the status. So how about I just apply? Because the only other type of change that can happen is that you give me an offer. So I'm not going to sit back and not apply because I think you'd say no. Well, that's where we are anyways. In saying no, you didn't change the status. But there's only one way that we can change that when I apply. So make that effort, right? Yes, I understand the exhaustion that comes with it. Coming from a guy who was unemployed for 4 years, yes, and then you wonder, so what were you doing in that period? Like I said, I was volunteering. Now, because I picked up tons of skill in that period, I was getting rewarded, right? It takes me to the next point. In your world of volunteering and trying to do something for free for someone, you have to be strategic. If I want to become a developer, I want to go and volunteer for a senior developer who's on the path that I believe I want to be on. So what that does is that it grants me access to tasks in that journey. If I want to be an ERM guy, I want to volunteer with an Adedamola. But if I want to do Salesforce, for example, right, in Shei's world, don't come and volunteer for me. I'll teach you everything that's valuable in my world. I'll teach you how to grow really quick in a career. But I'm not going to teach you stuff around Java and those great SQL stuff and those, AI stuff that she knows. Right? So there's a lot of conscious, intentional steps that you need to take. Career, just like everything else, is like a building, it's a structure. There's things like your CV are building blocks, networks, those are all building blocks, right? The challenge with most of us is that we lean so much on one side of the coin without paying too much attention to the other. So you find people who are securing networks on LinkedIn, but they're not building tangible skills. You find people who are focused on building skills, but they're not paying attention to the market needs. You find people who are praying to God, but they are not applying. Right? So it's the balance that truly results in the result. And allow me to say it like that. Because it is when you aggregate those efforts from understanding what's obtainable in this market. Something as simple as in your space, in your area of focus. Take for instance, you want to go into tech sales. Like she said, a simple AI prompt to say, what are the top 10 most difficult roles to fill out in this sector in Canada? Trust me, AI has response for you. You'll be interesting to find certain trends in there. And then you see roles that are difficult to fill. Or you go in there to go find roles that are taking more than 90 days to fill. Or roles that are having an upward trend of openings. And that gives you a sense of what the market needs. So what are you doing with those type of things? You are now adopting those roles, looking out for the type of skills that are required, and using that to benchmark in cleaning up your CV. Again, it's a combination of strategy, consistent effort, and beyond that, the mental rigor. I don't know how to say it nicely, but you need to be very, very, very tough mentally. You need to be at that place where the only way forward is upward. It's difficult, yes. It would mean that you burn out in some cases. It would mean that you will be exhausted. Sometimes you just want to just cry and not do anything, and that's okay, right? You just don't want to apply to any job because you get too many no's this week. No problem. Cry, yes. Cover your head with the duvet, sleep the whole night, maybe stand in the wind, something, whatever it is. And when you feel better, get right back into it. Because in the end, one thing someone said to me that struck me, he said that if it's that difficult, if you tell me jobs are scarce, and then I go online and search openings, there's thousands. So question, is it not humans that will fill out those roles? Could it be that there's something about my skill that's not attractive enough? Could it be that there's something I need to learn that will bring me forward in that regard? Could it be that there are certain sectors I need to focus on? So the landing point here is that as you journey through that path career, make sure that you're making incremental progress. So the job is not here yet, but make the next application better than the former one, right? Make the next interview better than the former one. Do that self-review and keep going at it. So I got in Canada, and after all the interesting suggestions and advice, I was doing a quick research, and I found the regulators are coming for a lot of sectors. But there's really no way this is a current trend, and then my sector would not be a hot cake. Oh yes, I was right. It's really, really hot cake. So picked up an offer before landing, and then joined this great tech company, and all the tech stuff that Sister was talking about. Beyond that, I'm going on to go to other stuff. And right now, I'll talk about university, and also provide services for utility. But what I found in doing that here, and getting stakeholders here, is that one person is come out and carrying their glasses. If they know how to do it, and there is success to it, they come out for you. So what if it is that job, they need you. Set to that mentality. Right? That's where you understand. When you get to that level, you become determined. You need your job right now. What you have to do, something needs to be done. So go into that conversation with this solution clever and right. It changes context every time. It helps you because for the most part, because of where we're coming from, the most popular ways of getting jobs, you hear things like construction, water, so and can't easily just your thought process. And for the most of it, I'll tell you. But why is it you believe this is system will come contact you? The people still secure jobs without applying, yes. People still secure jobs without applying, yes. So whichever group you focus on, so this is the reality for you. So first step, construction, to make sure you're making incremental progress in this effort. As you apply and continue to move from your education process, what I do is very simple. Take a step at a time. One of the things you go try to apply multiple variants. So far apart at this stage, you are tweaking your CV every other day. It's exhausting. How do I pick? Step job type. How would I appreciate this week? If it's just next week, another step, another job type. Not losing the intent and your skill development around control. It begins with component strategy, effort, and all of this stuff. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Brenda Mala, for that wonderful insight into your career journey. A few things that stood out to me from that, and also going back to what Rebecca said, is that you have to be willing to volunteer. I know, like, volunteering sounds like it is unpaid labor. It's like, it sounds like it is unpaid labor, and like in living in Canada, you have rent to pay, you have bills, you know that the man does not stop coming. But honestly, if you're not doing anything, volunteering is a good way to build capacity and skills that will be beneficial to put you in the career that you're looking for. Something we also pointed out is to see your network and build skills simultaneously. You don't want to let other about doing one because of them actually and towards your career growth. And then one thing that you said, which I thought was quite funny, was just like, you need to be tough mentally. And like sometimes as young adults, we're looking for some sort of like looking for this easy way out and don't want stress. Nobody wants stress, but if you really want the life that you have always imagined, you have to be ready to put in work, and that requires some sort of that requires you putting in the mental strength to achieve that. The only way forward is upward, and it's not going to be easy to climb up. You're going to have to put in work. And lastly, you do the self-review and they make mental progress. I personally, I find that important, and especially in everyday life, honestly, you want to take a moment with self-reflection of yourself and see how you can be better. Something that I learned recently and I hope to do when I have an interview is to record the interview process. Like while you're interviewing, record yourself and listen to your responses. And in doing that, you find out how you can make this better for the next interview. You can spot whatever mistakes that you made in that interview. But honestly, I meant that when I heard that, this is actually the insightful, and I definitely do the next interview. I want to see what the interview has to say. If you look at that, to be useful for you to be at that self-review, evaluate yourself, and make that implemental progress towards your next interview, towards your next conversation with your director or your manager. So once again, thank you so much. That was very insightful. Moving on, we're going to take some questions, and I know we all have questions that you read out. So I have a question, just wait. And we're going to have Brad Ambulance that will come up and sit here and why we take questions.
One major thing that we have to experience of overcome, and then we have to also integrate it into your new environment. Then suddenly you are not satisfied. You want to break away to another thing that you feel that, okay, I have more prospect here. This will give me more time and it will probably be more rewarding. Then you don't want to, I don't know if you understand what I mean. So you don't want to come all the way down to start going up again.
How do I do that?
I can answer very quickly. So one of the things that I wrote down before I came, and I don't know if I mentioned it, you are allowed to redefine yourself at every stage of your life. There's never a time to not start again. And many times that question you just asked, starting over again, I feel like it's the term over again that causes the issue. Every time anybody sees their career, they think of it as a ladder that you are just, you are going up, 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 and starting again means you are going down. I don't think it's the same. I think it's like skipping. It keeps tumbling. You keep going up and down. And it's part of the learning journey. I believe that every knowledge that you gain is an added to your belt. It is not you starting again. It is you adding more to your knowledge bank to be able to do more for yourself. Because many times, the time that you spend deciding whether or not to start again is enough time to have completed that learning, which is always what the problem is. I have a couple of people who say, I want to go to nursing school, but nursing school takes 3 years. Where do I start from again? But you can go 2-3 years without actually learning anything and not being able to go back to nursing school. That time that you spent waiting, saying, should I start again? You could have covered the space that you wanted to learn. So I would say starting again is not a bad thing. It is never too late for you to reinvent yourself. It will always be an added benefit to your belt. That would be my...
Starting again, learning is not the thing.
Okay.
Learning is a continuum. You must continue to learn. Like, when you are probably getting to almost a manager.
Correct.
Of course, the remuneration.
I appreciate that.
Then all of a sudden,
You have to start from analyst.
oh my brother.
I understand. So let me.
the learning.
Let me.
There are a lot of resources.
Absolutely.
It's almost for free. You know how to get it. Learning is not the thing.
Yeah.
It's the
Exactly. Okay. So let me give you very practical feedback, and thank you so much, Sister Ro, because the point Sister Ro just raised is by far the first hurdle. Majority of the people don't even bother to climb that far. Once they think about what's required from a learning standpoint, the point our brother is talking about, you've now even crossed that ladder. You've gone through that first hurdle. You've acquired the skill. But there's not the reality that in this new world, there's a tendency that you may need to take pay cuts several levels back. And you're not wondering, especially for someone who is, of course, family, tons of bills to pay and all of that. The realities are very different. So here's what I've seen. And it has really worked for me. And I think it can always work for everyone else. For the most part, whenever you're switching career, there is always a parallel in the knowledge base. So I'll give you an example. Regardless of how skillful you are, at an executive level, it's not so much about your technical abilities again. It's more of your leadership skill and strategy. As a middle manager, it's not so much of your operational, quote-unquote, abilities of taking off checkboxes as well, but more of your ability to interpret the company's strategy into tactical steps that we need to deploy. Now, each of these different rankings, let's use that word, have varying expectations. So, if I was going to move from a GRC consultant role and I want to jump into Sister Ro's world, the first is to find out, in my world, and there's so many ways to compare, you can use the remuneration to say, okay, if in my world I earn $500,000 per annum, what would be the ideal next level in Sister Ro's world? That might be a 650 role, a 750 role. What is it called there? That's probably a, I It's going to be called, give it a name, director of something. Question, what does a director need to know in that world? It brings me back to the conversation on strategy, right? For the most part, I want to go into programming. Someone says, go and learn coding. Well, coding is 6-letter word maybe, but that's a barrage of information, right? There's tons of things to learn in coding. There's an enormous amount of languages. My point is, the first step is to interpret what the equivalent role for what you're seeking to find in the new world is. And then, what skill set do you need to have? Remember, you've gone through the learning process. But what skill set do you need to have to represent yourself in a way that you can deliver that role? The final part is to rework your CV in a way that you are not telling them you've done it before, but you are showing sufficient trajectory that you can deliver in that capacity. Take this from a guy who have collapsed, and I know I'm being streamed online, but I've collapsed several hierarchies in a very short while. Because for the most part, especially in this climb, people are more interested in your ability to show that you can solve that problem. Most interviews will take only 45 minutes. So if I would take 2 weeks to convince you in 45 minutes that I can deliver in that role, I think I can.
I also wanted to add very quickly, when he's using a technical role to explain. So for example, let's say you're a manager and you decide that you want to switch into tech and you want to do a technical role. One thing to note is that it's not even all about the pay. It's also about what you plan to get from it. There has to be a reason why you want to switch into tech. So if, for example, you want to switch into, let's say in your job you make 500,000 today, and an entry-level developer makes 70,000. The question you have to ask yourself is, how long will it take to get me to the role that will make me 500,000 or more, and what am I willing to do during that period? Because many times you see people that work 1 or 2 jobs. Sometimes it's not because they want to, it's because, first of all, it's going to take me 5 years to get to where I want to get to. But in that 5 years, my family cannot suffer, other people cannot suffer. So they'll do their regular job and they'll do another job to scale up. And that other job they're doing to scale up, they're not doing it because they want to. They're doing it because they can see the big picture. The big picture is, and you have to give this picture a time. The big picture is 3-4 years from now, I want to be able to get to a senior developer. That senior developer is 700. That has to be something that tied you to that industry in the first place. If you give yourself that time, it will tell you how much time you have to dedicate to climbing the ladder to get there. Sometimes if it's not reasonable, it might be an opportunity for you to course correct. Maybe this is not the right career that you should be going to. But if you look at the time and it's something that you can manage, it's something that you are passionate about, you just need to say, for the next 5 years, man, life is going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to have to do this 9 to 5 to get my family okay. And I'm going to have to do this 5 to 9 to get my personal self-development to this point where you join. Because honestly, leaving whatever industry you are to an industry that you think will bring you a lot of wealth is like a good decision. Might as well start one day and make the most of it. So that would be my input in conjunction to you.
Well said, sister.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have another question?
Well, it's less of a question and more of just a fear, I guess. A lot of people my age, at least those that I've spoken to, are very skeptic about careers being eliminated, especially the entry-level ones. So it gives a lot of, I want to speak on behalf of Gen Zs a lot of anxiety. Because if you're getting rid of the entry-level ones, how are we supposed to build the capacity to get, you get it? Step 1 and 2 are taken. So it makes you wary. You're not saying the whole career is taken or the whole, it's just that step 1 is taken. And it feels like if I don't have step 1, I can never get to step 2. So the fear is that point that Brother Damola made about knowing where you want to go, investing in that time, picking a sector, there's that fear that what if I put all my eggs in this basket and then the next step gets taken away and then I have to move to another industry. So for us, for me, it's like, how do I settle
Position
that?
better for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me try to respond to this in a very practical way. So again, I'll just use my experience for a moment. Back in Nigeria, ERM was something that was only peculiar to financial sector as a thing. But here, it is global. It is in every sector here in Canada, right? Now, and that's the trend that is growing globally. Where I'm heading at is that there are certain career paths that will retain relevance for a long time. And if we're talking to Gen Zs, one of the things that I'm happy about that generation is that you still have time, right? So, unlike the discussion we were just having with Mr. Dozier, the big conversation there is a time conversation. Because if I was in the shoes and I'm probably 19, maybe 21, I'll take that. Go through the cycles and, 6, 7 years and back up. But it's different when I'm in my mid-40s, right? I have fewer bandwidth to make errors. So what's the response here? First, identify roles that retain relevance across board. I'll give you an example. As much as AI continues to grow in leaps and bounds, it is almost impossible to have an AI do a human resource business partner in a team because that's the person who talks to the people, right? I don't know yet, but I'm wondering when AI is going to MC events. Yeah, that's what they said, right? But for corporate events, pretty much. But when we have to really crack ourselves up, maybe. But what I'm sure is that AI is going to scale that sector and make it easier for you to MC. So maybe the real concern should be in that role, in that sector that you've picked, what can AI do? What can I learn to scale on what AI can do? Right? So it's more of learning to leverage what is currently in existence. I'll give you an example. If someone tells me today now that they want to start, and I say this jokingly, but imagine with me someone wants to start learning shorthand. Remember shorthand? Right? Yeah, business studies. That was the smart way to take minutes. But right now, there's a billion different ways to do that easy. So, question one, if what you're trying to do is something there's already a solution for it, no, that's a no-no, right? But beyond that, as much as AI is growing, the human interference in the job market remains relevant. Now it's your job to identify that part that applies to you, right? There's now tons and tons of robots doing all sorts of surgeries on human beings, but the health sector is still having shortage of real nurses because people want to talk to humans too, right? So understanding and identifying those type of roles where the relevance of that sector is still, I would say, shielded, but can accommodate the AI development without directly threatening your skill will be one of the important things to look out for, and then you can build from there.
I want to give a quick comment to the Gen Z population. And the reason why I say the Gen Z population is because in 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, one thing that you have an advantage over other generations is you were born with technology. It's not something that you had to learn because, or at like a time when your brain was shutting down.
That's correct.
It was growing with you, which means that whether you like it or not, the work to get relevant in the ecosystem is more for you than it is for us. It's just the reality. There will never be a replacement for the place of mentorship for your generation. The people who have gone ahead of you, that know what the entry level is, there are people that are going to be interviewing you, Those are the people that need to be your mentors. A mentor will tell you, hey, to get started in this career, these are 1, 2, 3, 4 steps you need to do. Step 1, 2, and 3 have not been replaced by AI. What does that mean? We need to know about step 1, 2, 3 and come correct with step 4 to be able to have a seat at the table. That is what a mentor will do. I have 2 mentors, like I mentioned. I have a mentor that deals with soft skills for me. Some days when I have a very terrible day at work, I message my mentor and say, this is the struggle that I went through today. This is how I handled it. I feel like I could have handled it better. Give me any insight. And I respect their time. I don't message them every 2 business days, but they know that, they can lean on me when they need something. And the other piece of mentorship is nobody wants a leech. Somebody, if I am your mentee, the relationship has to also be mutually beneficial for the both of us, which means you have to be able to come to your mentors with ways that also help them live a better life. Like you have to be able to volunteer. If they're giving you their time, you should be able to give them back your time. I find that I've gotten a lot more from my mentors to be able to volunteer to also help suit whatever research or thing they're doing. But exactly. But mentorship is the way you can scale. Like whoever puts a job posting out today is somebody that's going to AI is not going to interview you. Maybe we'll get to that point. But right now, this is it. During the weekend, my sister and I were working on Canva AI code. I put the timer on my phone just for fun. And I asked it to build a website for my husband's MC business. And I kid you not, 4 minutes, 30 seconds. A full-blown website was built with all the pages. Now, the first 4 years of my career in tech was building websites for company. That website will have taken me a week and a half to build, and it will have cost the customer between 300,000 to 500,000 if I was going to charge a decent amount. I don't even think we had a pro Canva account. We had a free Canva account, which means that somebody could go in there, type the prompt that was there, and boom, website is up. What does this mean? It's eliminating the web design industry. It's also going to do the same for coding and developers who used to be the it thing. Honestly, I've considered going to nursing school because it's just the reality of where we are at. But in everything, I will still say, if you are curious and you are asking questions, your job should be, now that Canva AI has put out this code out there, I want to learn more about security. How do we make something safe? Like, anybody can hack this website. The code is publicly available. How do I protect people's data? What is the space, like Brother Mala said, that you can feel that AI, even though AI can do it, people will do it. Every time you see an output come out of AI, they tell it to say, this document was generated by AI, so that you know that there can be an iota of lie in it. Which means that human beings will also be important in the whole process. One of the things that if you notice, the people who are making money right now are the people who are writing prompts that make AI function.
Exactly.
There's so many prompt engineering roles. Like your job is to think about a way to get AI to be useful all the time. So for the Gen Z population, I would say leadership, mentorship from your leaders will set you up a whole lot. It will give you the secrets that people don't have knowledge to. And I get that we're in a church, but don't get a pastor as your technical leader if you're in a technical field, except he's a technical leader. Get people. There's a space for your mental health and spiritual welfare. Get a mentor there. If you need a pastor, reach out to them. But if you're looking for people in this space, let it be somebody who knows what you're talking about.
So he said that to you.
Who is ready to
You need to emphasize it.
It's really ready to know the difference
It's
between.
important that you're hearing from church.
Exactly. Know the difference between what you are learning. If they say, oh, we need a job today, there's a place for prayer, but there's also a place for doing the work. So, Gen Z people, you got to do the work. So.
Yep. You have to do it. And, yes, that we need to address this. It's very difficult, and I admit, right? But can we focus more on the part out of the situation than overbloat the problem, right? There's this very, I don't know how to say it nicely, but there's this build up of momentum on overemphasizing the context of the problem itself without any true effort to path forward, right? Yes. So it doesn't mean we don't recognize it's a reality you're dealing with. Oh, yes, we do. But in the end, we have to move forward. So however that is, it might be very tiny little steps, but keep at it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I feel like we need to have this like as a podcast episode because there's so much wealth of knowledge coming from you both. To your point about like AI interview, I was going to mention that about 2 weeks ago, I did see a TikTok video and it was glitching a lot, but they used AI to do the interview and I thought that was interesting. Yeah. But I just had 2 more questions. You've answered a lot of questions that I put down just in case no one had questions. But the first question is the struggle between like purpose and financial freedom. Like how do you balance that where you're going for a career that suits your purpose life but also gives you that financial freedom that you want?
Can I take that?
Yes.
I love that part. Okay, so for the most part, and I would say it like this, I think our interpretation of the context of purpose in itself is really where the difference comes in. You can start a career just because you love it, but that you love it does not automatically translate to purpose. It is in that journey that you would observe certain consistent trends, and then somewhere along that line, the perspective that originally started that journey with you changes. You start seeing what you're doing beyond you. At that point, we're discussing purpose. I'll give you an example. Think about all the tech CEOs that you know that are doing amazingly well. They've gotten into the billionaire status, some of them maybe 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. It's not so much about how much money again. They have more than enough of that. But there's now a global need. There's now a generational question they are trying to answer. There's now the desire to truly remain relevant in people's lives. And so, start where you are. Start because you need the bills paid. And that's fine. You know why? Because one of the easiest ways to make yourself happy is that you have the resource to cater for your needs, no matter how small they are. But in that journey, pay attention to what resonates with you as you go through it. For the most part, you would find the connecting dot. And so I think when we start discussing purpose, and I hear people talk about it in quote-unquote personal terms, right? In my opinion, I feel like we're still discussing your desire. Because when it becomes a purpose, it won't matter what comes from it anymore. At that point, it's now how can we make this better? You are truly, genuinely, recklessly involved in it without what comes back at you, right? So, now, on the other side, I'd say it nicely again. When you are looking out for a career, I like to answer the questions first around, do you really have area of interest? Some of us are very open-minded. We can play around with different things. We just want the bills paid. And that's also a great place to be. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you are that type of person who has a genuine desire for a certain part, one thing I can guarantee you, every sector has a lucrative hand. It's your job to find out. Yes. Back where we come from, when you talk about teachers, well, yeah, exactly. Well, guess what? There are tutors who earn exactly. So it's all about finding out in this area that I am genuinely interested in, what part are the most lucrative, and then walk your journey in that life. So that's how I distinguish between purpose and earning a lot of money. So purpose, it comes at you. You find it. It's hidden in that journey.
Thank you. And then to my last two questions, I'm going to tie it together. And it's just bringing it back to the church. Like, how has faith played a role in like your career decisions and growth? And then last question, and you can both like take this on. It's just like what's something you wish you had known, let's say 5 years ago, that you think would be helpful for someone who's just starting out? Yes, and we can use that to wrap up our question session.
Okay. So I can go about faith. Faith and God have brought me this far. When Brother Mala said you have to be mentally tough, I will tell you that there were so many times in my career that I thought about quitting. I have been one of the leading women in a potentially male-dominated industry. And it tells because there's always like a boys group in every...
Who is that sister again?
There's always a boys group, and you're never really invited to the party, or you're invited to the party and then you stick out like a sore thumb. And it just feels like, the people that you're looking for, like my mentors are all women, by the way, but before then, like I had people who could not connect to what the struggles are. Being a married woman now and also having my full-time job is an interesting discovery. It will also be more interesting when I have children and still have to maintain this. So, and I would say all of this, it's my faith that has kept me sane. There are days when nothing was wrong with me, like in per se, but I got so overwhelmed. And so I've just always tried to find my way back to being in God's presence. Just sit there for a while, listen to some good music, pray, go to bed, and that's helped me. There are many days where I've applied to jobs, and I said that at the beginning, and I wasn't getting anything back. But my faith and the knowledge of the fact that God has told me that He will take care of me and He will provide all my needs have given me the reassurance that when I apply for something I don't get it, it was not for me. And the doors that God has opened for me is enough conviction for me to know that, hey, He really loves me and He has good intentions for me. So I would say that's the role that my faith has played. With regards to the church community, I would say that my volunteering in church paved the way for my second business. I used to take pictures, but I never really took them professionally because it was just like, the mindset you have of like photographers when you're back home. They even come to your house, they won't give them food at party, or you will not, like it just was not just it's just not like a vibe, man. But then I started volunteering a lot, taking pictures of people, and then I take pictures, and the impact that he had on people was like, they were so happy, like nobody has that. I'm just like, really? And that's what kicked off my side business that is now, on the way to overwhelming me. But, volunteering and my experience here has helped me a lot with that particular piece. And then the last question, what was the last question you asked me? Okay. Something I wish I knew while I'm back is to be audacious. I feel like every time I see people, like Brother Amala said, I walk into rooms and they're paying people millions of dollars. They don't have half the knowledge that I know in my head. And I'm just like, am I in the wrong place? Like, did I do something wrong? And I realized that the people who got a better deal were people with audacity. There's something that audacity does. Like, they don't know what's going on, but they talk. They don't shy away from opportunities to be in front. I'm an introvert, so by default, I'm at the back end of every seat. And that affected me a lot in my career because now I have to start building a personal brand outside of any organization that I work with. You mention my name and you know that this is what I'm good at. I did a podcast with someone for women in tech in Halifax for Salesforce. This was like last year, October. I was in San Francisco in April, and we went for a conference, and people actually knew who I was. Like, I was walking, and they stopped me. They're like, I know you. And I'm just like, yeah, you don't.
Celebrity lifestyle.
My dear. And this came from just one engagement. The person posted that video on YouTube, and over 9,000 people watched it. Every few business days, my LinkedIn inbox was filled with people asking me, I loved your thing, it helped me pass my exam. I love your this, it helped me do this. And I just realized to myself, girl, it's time to be audacious and take the next step with your personal brand. And that's honestly something that I'm working on. But audacity, you cannot buy it. You just have to gather the courage to be able to do it. And the other thing that I would say that I wish I could have done better was betting on myself a lot more. I feel like I felt like, oh, I didn't want to push myself this far. Or I felt like I was good enough, but I didn't feel like I was good enough for someone to pay me this amount of money to do. And I just realized that I didn't have any data. It was just vibes in my head, like the actual data of what people were earning. Like what I'm earning now, some people were earning 4 years ago. Let's make it make sense. Like it's just audacity and the opportunity to put yourself out there. So I would say if I was going to do anything different, it would be to put myself out there and grab every opportunity that came like it was going to be my last. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sister. That was just boom. Fit journey for me was one that I didn't just imagine. I felt it. I literally touched it because this is coming from a guy that was jobless for 4 years, right? So just to give context, I was busy because I was volunteering, right? But then I didn't have an income because I wasn't getting paid salary, right? But something I learned about God in that period was two things. First is how that journey transforms you into understanding that God's role in your eventual success vis-a-vis your role is a complete collaboration. For the most part, we desire roles that we're not even willing to go through the process that grows us into that. So you want something, there's a capacity requirement for it, right? We desire it, but the journey that builds that capacity, oftentimes we shy away from it, right? And so I kind of got a lot of insight into that part. And then the tipping point for me was that I became very vulnerable with God. Knowing so much, attending interviews, and getting no's was enough reason to know that there was something that needed to tweak the hearts of men in your favor beyond what you know. There are instances, there are situations that there's a conditioning that environment needs for it to align in your favor, like the people out there say, when the stars align, right? There's a force that needs to bring that all together. Something as simple as Sister Ro, being in the right mood, being excited about one great breakthrough, and then you're just saying all the nice things. Or you just enter and then you're wearing one shirt that looks like something she got for her husband a couple weeks ago. And just on the most trivial reasons, you'll be surprised. And oftentimes it's after you've joined the organization and then they start telling you, do you know, it was that shoe that day, my dad got it for, okay, all right, yeah. So that's how I got it. That's the God factor. And that's the advantage that we have beyond the non-believers. But where I think it's important to draw the line is that when we talk about this context of favor, faith in God and stuff, we are always tilted in the direction of replacing favor with hard work, replacing favor with going through the process. As Christians, the truth is that the bare minimum should be that we are at par out there. It's unbelievable, just by virtue of my current role and level, I get to sit on tons and tons of interviews. And when you hear some non-Christians deploy their intelligence, oh Christ, you have to be devil yourself for you to not, you get what I mean? And so you see people who come, they deploy so much faith in God, but the context of the work that needs to be done, the ability to show forth their skills, there's a bit of that out there. So remember my point around the building blocks. There's the part that faith will play, but don't neglect the hard work. See, there's some work that would never be easy. There's nothing fun about building capacity. It is work. And sometimes work without pay. Right? So, but God grant us the strength. So I see faith as the advantage that we have to condition the environment that is largely out of our control. Right? Now, what I think I would have done 5 years ago, or what I wish I knew 5 years ago, closely related to Sister Ro. I think I would have. I love that point around audacity. I think for me, it was closely related to that, but I was so much of a perfectionist in how I wanted to deploy things that I'd literally twist, turn, curve, shape, bend it. That corner is still not perfect, and this corner, and I ended up wasting time. Right? By the time you're showing up, people with less than half the features, right? You've gone ahead. Oh, fired. And then someone sees you and says, "You had this all the while? Where were you?" I was building. So the learning point for me was when you start that building, start the conversation. Yeah, I started building this. And then let the people start checking back at you. Let them be your sounding board. We need this feature in it. Then we need that feature. Then we need that feature. And so that's really what it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our speakers for facilitating the question session. Some few takeaways. You are allowed to redefine yourself, leverage what is in existence, discover your purpose, and find how to leverage it towards your financial freedom. And lastly, be audacious. Put yourself out there. All right, so we've come to the end of our session today. Thank you all so much for being part of this conversation. I hope that everyone is leaving here feeling inspired, challenged, and equipped with insights on how to take the next step in your career journey. A big thank you to our amazing speakers for sharing their wisdom and experiences so generously. Just in case you missed it earlier, Sister Rhoda is a principal tech consultant specializing in Salesforce, and Brother Mola is an ERM and GRC professional. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask outside of this session today, feel free to connect with them. Sister Rhoda's LinkedIn and email address is currently up on the screen, so you can scan to connect. And if you also need to connect with Brother Mola, feel free to reach out to me, Tracy, and we can connect you to him. And also, thank you to everyone who showed up today and asked questions and engaged. Thank you very much. You made it such a meaningful time. And so, as you go, remember, growth is a journey. Start small and stay curious, and trust that with your faith and intentionality, your steps are being ordered in the right way. Thank you and have a good night.